Welcome to KICKSTART On Demand. I'm Ryan, and we are here on YouTube for an abbreviated version of our KICKSTART class. KICKSTART is designed for incoming freshmen, where we discuss questions like, who am I? Where do I fit in? And why am I even here? Those are some pretty big questions as you head into your high school years. And today we're going to be talking about that first question I brought up. Who am I? What is my identity? And so before we dive into the Bible and what Jesus has to say, let's start with the question. How would you define yourself? Maybe get a pen and paper or a phone and just write down if someone asked you, who are you? How would you define yourself? Maybe it's, I'm a great student, or a not so great student. Maybe it's the sports that you play. Maybe it's the band, the instrument that you play, the chair that you're sitting in. Maybe it's theater, maybe whatever part you get. Maybe it's what other people think of you, or how many friends you have. Maybe it's your successes, that's how you define yourself. Or maybe it's your failures. I've struggled with this a lot. I put my identity in my grades and in basketball and in my friends. And the problem that I kept running into is that's not a full picture of who I am. That's a part of me, yes, but it's not my identity. And so as you start to write down what it is that you would define yourself as, just realize that maybe that's just a part of you. That's not all of who you are. And so throughout KICKSTART classes, we're going to be talking about this guy who lived back in Bible times, and his name is Saul of Tarsus. And later on, he's known as the Apostle Paul, but right now, he's Saul of Tarsus, and he has something I think might have been an identity problem. He put his identity in a lot of the things that he did, and how many people he was leading, of what people thought of him. And so he went throughout his life, his early life, he was a very educated man. He was really smart. He was trained by some of the best teachers. He would have gotten great grades, and he might have put his identity in all that stuff that he knew. But the problem that Saul was running into is he was murdering a ton of Jesus followers. In fact, in Acts 8, Acts is a book in the New Testament that talks about life after Jesus. In Acts 8, it specifically says that Saul of Tarsus approved of the murdering of this Jesus follower named Stephen. It specifically says that he approved of that. So Saul has something I kind of consider an identity problem. He was okay with tearing other people down so that he could get ahead into what he thought his identity was. How many of you have ever been okay with the tearing down of other people just so you could get ahead in what you thought your identity was? Maybe you're a soccer player and someone on your team, one of your teammates breaks their foot and so they're out for the season. But you're happy about it because that just means you get more goals. You get to play more, you get more shots. How many of you have ever done that? Maybe you're in class or you're in school, you're at your locker, hanging out with some of your friends and they're making fun of someone across the hall. And you don't stop them from that. You're happy that they're not making fun of you. That might be an identity problem. You might be putting too much emphasis on your sport, on soccer. You might be putting too much emphasis on what people are thinking of you. And so to continue on with Saul of Tarsus, he actually later on, he starts on this trip to this town called Damascus, where he hears that there's a ton of Jesus followers around. So he's beginning a trek there to go probably murder some more Jesus followers. But on his way there, he meets Jesus. Literally meets Jesus. Jesus comes there and says, "Why are you doing this, Saul? You're smarter than that. You know that this isn't good." And so Jesus, during that time, takes Saul's sight away. Saul can't see. He goes blind. And I think it's kind of funny because sometimes we need to stop seeing ourselves as the way we see ourselves. We need to stop seeing ourselves as the way other people see us. We need to start seeing us the way Jesus sees us. And so how does Jesus see us? Well, as we read throughout the Bible, we get told a lot of things of how God sees us. He makes us in his own image. We are children of God. Jesus literally says that you are the salt of the earth and you are the light of the world. Well, that's something you can put your identity in. Jesus loves you. Look, it says it on my shirt. Jesus loves you so much that he'd be willing to come down here from heaven and die so that you can live with him in heaven forever. That's something that you can put your identity in. And the crazy thing is, when we go back to look at Saul, who becomes the Apostle Paul, when he changes his identity from being this well-educated leader of people and killing followers of Jesus, when he changes his identity to be fully who Jesus made him to be, loved by Jesus, he can't stop telling people about that. He can't stop everyone from the ends of all over. It doesn't matter where they came from, doesn't matter what they're doing. Saul went on to become the Apostle Paul because he went and told people about the love of Jesus and told them about the identity that they should put their identity in. If that makes sense. I don't know. So when are we going to stop putting our identity in these small things that are just supposed to be part of our lives and start putting them in the full picture of who Jesus made us to be? So as you go throughout, this is just an abbreviated version, like I said. But we're going to have a worksheet for you to fill out. It's in the description. So I want you to take some time and think about, who has God made me to be? And how does that apply to my life? When I go to school, how can I use being loved by Jesus to impact people? When I am a part of my team, hanging out with my teammates, how can I use that I'm made in the image of God to impact people? When I'm online, because we're all online right now for the most part, how can I use the fact that I am the salt of the earth and the light of the world to impact people? So this is just week 1 of Kickstart On Demand, and we have 2 other options that you can take part in. We have an in-person option on Thursdays from 6:30 to 8 here at the Granger campus. And we also have a Zoom option if you're not able to make it in person at the same time. Thursdays from 6:30 to 8. We encourage you to hop in. It's basically this, but longer and with more discussion and a little deeper dive into that. I said this earlier, but there is a worksheet for you to fill out and kind of work on and dive through with some questions in the description. So check that out. But for now, that is it for Kickstart On Demand. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you next week.